Today's guest is Young One, a singer-songwriter based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. Young One is fresh off the release of his latest single, Send It Up. Welcome, Young One.
Thank you.
Hey,
Good to
man.
be here.
Glad to have you. Let's start from the beginning. Where were you born and raised, and how did music come into your life?
Oh, dang. So I was born in New York City. The reason being my parents, they got married after meeting each other doing like a musical theater performance
Oh, wow.
at Lagoon in Utah, of all places. So they're performers themselves, and they went out to New York City to do the big musical theater, try and make it on Broadway thing. And they're still awesome performers. My dad ended up not going that route. My mom did keep going down the musical theater route, but kind of made the primary thing be having kids and being a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
But she still performs. When COVID doesn't shut down all the shows, she's still an active, professional stage actor, singer, voice teacher. So yeah, we had music in the house very early. My mom always had voice students over doing like vocal exercises. Those are sounds of my childhood. I was the oldest. My parents had us all do a bunch of instruments. I played piano, played the oboe in junior high. Picked up guitar at some point. Did singing, voice lessons from my mom.
Yeah.
And I was really into music through high school, and then college I got boring, and I thought that I needed a real job, and I ended up finishing college and actually going to law school, and I'm a lawyer in my day job right now. But there's kind of a period where I didn't do music, but I am back in the period of my life where I'm actively doing music.
That's awesome. So was the musical theater like a big musical influence for you growing up, like sonically? Or what were your musical influences?
Yeah, so I kind of had like horrible taste in music as a kid. I hear all these artists talking about like how they listened to Leonard Cohen when they were like 12 years old, and I'm like, dang, I wish I had that sophisticated of taste.
Yeah.
I was listening to like Creed when I was 12, and luckily it didn't like seep too into my influences. Musical theater, yeah, like I did it a ton, but it wasn't really. I guess there was a point where I thought, I could do musical theater, and I wanted to go in that direction hard. But there was also a part of me that's like teenager who doesn't want to do anything their parents want them to, and it was like, oh, musical theater, that's mom and dad's thing. I don't really want to do that. I don't like that. And even today, like I'm doing I do voice lessons with another local musician named Joseph Moore.
Awesome. Hey, we know him. He's a friend of the show.
Oh, maybe that's why. Oh, actually, yeah. Joseph is who posted about you guys' app, and I think that's how I heard about you guys' app. But yeah, I take voice from Joseph. And he's like having me do a musical theater song, and I'm kind of resistant to it. I'm like, he's like, oh, do you like this song? I'm like, I mean, as much as any other musical song.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely influenced like my voice, because that was the vocal training I had. So like I kind of have. My voice, I have a lot of vibrato. My songwriting is I'm still starting out, and maybe I'll unleash the really theatrical part of my voice in some of my Young One songs eventually. But I think it definitely had an influence on like what kind of voice I developed.
That's so cool. When did like guitar and piano come into your life? Like when did you pick up the instrument, and like what were your influences for instruments?
Yeah, piano was just I was forced to play piano. Um, I never hated it, but I never loved it, and I took lessons for 10 years.
Wow.
And my parents, my mom was like, I grew up LDS, and my mom was like, you can't quit piano until you can play any hymn in the hymn book by just like sight read it,
Oh man.
which I've heard is like a common like I don't think my parents are the only people who had that like guideline. And I actually like never got to that point, even after 10 years of piano, which is kind of sad. But yeah, piano was whatever. Recently, I've fallen back in love with it, just because like I discovered MIDI and like software instruments, and there's so many cool things you can do with keyboards. But growing up, it wasn't my passion. Guitar was a lot more like my soul instrument, and it started off probably like many teenage boys' guitar journeys start off, which was like, well, there were phases. The first was like I was in 7th grade and I heard an 8th grader play Basket Case by Green Day on the guitar, and I thought it was so cool. So I had to like learn to just so I could be cool. And then it turned into, oh, I can learn like John Mayer songs and play them for girls at parties and make them like me. And sometimes it worked, but yeah, that was the driving force. But like in terms of what like guitar stuff I listen to, I actually am a huge John Mayer fan. That was that was kind of the bridge from, you start learning John Mayer songs because you're trying to impress a girl, but then you realize that he's an amazing guitarist and all the blues influences, and then you start diving into that, and it's kind of the gateway. I listened to a lot of Red Hot Chili Peppers too when I was growing up. So those are probably big guitar influences.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you mentioned that you took some time off away from music. Tell us about how that went. Like, when did you stop and when did you start back up, and what brought you back to it?
Yeah, like I said, I kind of stopped in college. I think I either wasn't creative enough or was too fearful about like music being my main thing. This could devolve very quickly into like a therapy session on why I made certain life choices and why I didn't make other life choices. But I guess as an attempt to keep it pretty light, I just, at the time, I thought that I had to be really practical. And from whatever messaging I had been programmed with, I thought that music wasn't the right way to do that, and I had to do a different thing. And if I could go back, I probably wouldn't do that, because I think you can make money doing anything, especially with the internet and being creative about it, and like throwing yourself. If I threw myself into music as hard as I threw myself into like getting into law school, like it would work. But that's kind of why I stopped. And then the reason I picked up is because I was just feeling a void in my life. Like I had gone down this path of being a lawyer, and I thought that would make me happy because people would think I'm smart. But the job itself actually kind of sucked when I got there. And I should note that like the reason I keep looking off to this screen is because I still have a job as a lawyer, and I still have like things to do for clients. And that's what I'm doing with the other half of my brain right now. But yeah, at least at least the old place I used to work, I just felt like my soul was dead, and I kind of needed an outlet, creative outlet. So I quit my job. I went to Guitar Center. I found a different job before I quit my old job, but I changed jobs, and in that time between jobs, I like went to Guitar Center, and I was like, okay, just I want to buy like whatever I need to make music on my own. So I bought like an audio interface, and I bought Logic Pro, and I bought a like a condenser mic, and I just started doing songs on my own, like in my bedroom. And I think the lyrics were pretty good. I think the songs were pretty decent. The production kind of sucked, but yeah, that's kind of the moment I dove back into it. That was like 2 years ago.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's crazy how music can really like revitalize someone. Like when you're feeling like, for me, I know personally, I have these moments where I don't feel like myself when I'm not utilizing music in my life.
Yeah.
It's really amazing how it can do that. What was the span of years between dropping and picking back up for you?
Oh man. I mean, it wasn't a clean drop. Like I kind of, in college, I had a band, but we only did like a band. We had like 2 gigs, and it was really small. We didn't even have a drummer. It was like
Oh, nice.
2 guys on an acoustic guitar and then a cello player. But I didn't really take it seriously. I wrote songs like I'm married. I wrote a song for my wife before I got married, and that was, gosh, I'm almost 33. That was when I was like 23. So that was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
When it probably started to dwindle a lot. And then in law school is pretty sparse too. So it was almost like an 7 or 8 year span where I really wasn't doing anything meaningful with music.
Wow. What would you say the difference is now that you've gone back into it? Like, how has your life been affected by taking the dive again?
Oh, good question. I mean, I I think about music a lot more. I feel like there are a lot of stressful days now, and there are a lot of stressful days back when I wasn't doing music, just because it gets busy and hectic. And music has, some of the same hang-ups as any job. Like you get frustrated when it's not flowing the way it should, or when you get distracted and you're not putting in the time, or like you're not actually seeing any, like you're trying to do commercial music and get fans, and you're not making any money.
Yeah.
Like those all exist, but there's kind of this macro stress that I felt before, where I was like, I'm not doing anything for my soul. Like I feel kind of incomplete that I'm not flexing that artistic muscle.
Yeah.
And now that I am flexing it, it feels, at least I can look at that piece of my life and think like, oh, that's in balance now. Like that's, before it was completely out of balance, and now, even if they're unbalanced days on a macro level, it's more balanced.
Yeah, I love that. I love that viewpoint. So what are your hopes and your goals for your current project of Young One? What do you hope to accomplish with it?
Yeah. Quit my job. I shouldn't say this, but I'm probably maybe I'll have coworkers who watch this. No, I mean, it's so hard to think of, to like set goals for music. For me, it's hard to set goals about music in the same way you do about, I don't know, a career, or like if you have a business,
Yeah.
like, I'm a lawyer to startups. And so like all my startup clients, like it's pretty clear what they're trying to do. Like they're trying to create a specific product that fits a specific need. Like maybe it's software that helps sales teams in whatever specific way. And the goal is to sell as many units as possible. I guess it's the same with music. Like the goal is to make a song that, or songs that like make people feel something, in the way that like my favorite songs make me feel something and touch as many people as possible. But I feel like with music, it's a little more amorphous because it's, at least for me, like I don't quite know how to do it yet. I don't know, do I just need to work on making the song land better with people? Do I need to work on my songwriting? Do I, do I need to work on the marketing aspect? Everybody wants to be Taylor Swift and have, hundreds of millions of streams. That would be great. But there's like so much of that that's out of your control. So when you set that goal, it's kind of hard. I don't know. I'm like a sucky goal maker anyway, so maybe I'm a bad person to ask about that question.
No, that's great. I love hearing your view on that.
Yeah.
You have a very interesting view because, you dropped in and came back, and I actually love hearing about that. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out in music? Like, let's say they're just bought the first guitar or the first piano. What would you tell them about their journey they're about to, I guess journey sounds kind of cliche, but what would you give them?
Yeah, I would say, consistency is like the number one thing. Like if you want to get good at whatever your chosen instrument is, do it every day. Like it doesn't matter if you do it for 10 minutes or for an hour every day. Like if you do it every day as opposed to like 3 days a week, you're going to get exponentially better because like you're not going to forget as many things between practice sessions. Like you're going to remember what you did last practice session. For me, lessons are like huge. Like when I started taking, like I've had voice lessons for years, and I'd say like I'm a trained singer. There are plenty of singers who have made it big who probably have less singing training than I have. But I picked up lessons at the beginning of this year again from Joseph because when I work with a good teacher, it's like exponential growth, and that's money well spent to me. So but I would try and find one that, can help you with the thing you want to do. Like for me, I love my mom, but she is not a male. She doesn't have a male voice. And so there's always kind of been this limit to, I'm sure there are plenty of good female teachers who can teach the male voice, but for me and my mom, like there was always a kind of disconnect because she just didn't have a guy's voice. So she couldn't quite do it for me. So I wanted to get a teacher who at least knew guys' voices really well. So preferably was a guy himself. And then I also, she does all musical theater. And I wanted someone who was a little more versatile and could help with more like pop or rock stuff. And so, I asked around for recommendations and Joseph's name came up. So whether it's finding a teacher or whether it's you're going to do it on your own and you're going to just learn from YouTube videos or you're going to learn certain songs, I'd say like find the things that support the thing that you want to do. Like I was saying earlier, I took piano for 10 years and I can't even play that well. I can't play by ear. I can't like go and jam with people on the piano very well. I learned all classical songs, and sure, that helped me like be able to move my fingers really fast. But it wasn't the thing that drove me. I would have been better off just like turning on the radio or turning on a CD and sitting there at the keyboard and trying to like sound out, playing along with the song, like being able to just like play the chords by ear or play the melody lines by ear, like that would have supported my goals. And there's nowhere that says you have to study classical piano or you have to study classical voice in order to get good at an instrument. Just do the thing that you want. Like, yes, pentatonic scales on the guitar will help you, but like if that's all you're doing, like so will listening to Red Hot Chili Peppers licks and like trying to figure them out on your own consistently.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love that. I think it's just a matter of finding what you love and committing to it and just diving into it, letting yourself dive into it, I guess is one way to put it.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to like listen to music and get that feeling by listening, but when you're playing it, it's different. So like if you're playing what you love, it's next level. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell us about your latest single, Send It Up, kind of the recording process for that song and the meaning behind it.
Yeah, this was a weird one because, usually all the other songs I've released I've got a couple of songs that I finished and haven't released yet. Like it's a very deliberate lyrics, kind of a more drawn out process that, just over time the pieces come together. For Send It Up, this one just like came together in like 10 minutes one time. I was trying to do a cover of a different song and I just tried changing the time signature to 12/8 or whatever Send It Up is in. Whatever time, some 3 time signature. And I just like thought of this melody line and I just started singing it. I was like, all right, that's the song. And I had a couple of tweaks, but in terms of the songwriting, it was one of those that just kind of came.
Yeah.
And it honestly doesn't have that much meaning. I just thought like the words kind of sounded cool along that melody line that I thought of. But I recorded it. It's pretty sparse. Like there's an acoustic guitar, there's kind of a tremolo electric guitar, and there's a bunch of vocal harmonies. I recorded it on my own and had kind of this demo, along with a bunch of other songs that I kind of took as far as I could by myself. This was probably a year and a half ago that I finished these up, and then I didn't like, at one point I thought, I can just release like some lo-fi music, but then I thought I kind of want to see what they'll sound like if I bring someone else into the mix. So I reached out to a guy named Jordan Turner, and he helped me mix and beef up some of the production on some of my songs that I had. So he added a couple synth lines. He did a really good mixing job on this one to make it sound really epic, but also really like lush and flowy.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the process with this one. I'd say my songs are kind of Radiohead-ish, kind of like the band The National too, where it's not like happy upbeat songs. It's kind of somber, kind of angsty songs. A lot of my songs are about the same stuff like a band like The National sings about, which is kind of like you're grown up and you're kind of adrift and you don't really know, like you're trying to find meaning in your existence, but it's kind of boring and kind of depressing, and there's a lot of like mixed feelings about getting older, and that's kind of the general theme of my music. Even though I'm a pretty like positive person in real life, that's just like what this batch of songs comes out. And I think mood wise, kind of aesthetically, this one's a little moody, a little like atmospheric kind of, and also a little somber, like, you know, similar to some of my other songs. But
Yeah. And I think it's important to have, like, no matter where it comes from, I think it's important to have that outlet for the music to come from, you know?
yeah,
Just whatever you feel like, or at the National, what they feel like. I think
Yeah.
even though it's not the typical like teenage pop song, that perspective is so important because there are people out there
Yeah.
who need it and relate to it. So it's
yeah.
awesome.
I just watched the Billie Eilish documentary on Apple TV, which I thought was awesome. And yeah, I feel like she talks about that, you know, quite a bit, and you can hear it in her music. It's like it's a good, you know, there was a scene in the movie, if you haven't seen it, where her mom was like, "Are you really gonna write about this?" She was writing about like suicide or something heavy in a song, and her mom was like, "You really want to write about that? Like, is that really like something you're feeling? Is that like
Yeah.
something in you that you're trying to project out?" And Billy was like, "Yeah, but it's better that I like put it into that I just drop it into a song than I actually do something about it in real life." I think there's a lot of artists like that, like Eminem, for example, who like insanely violent like subject matter in his songs, but you know, from what I've heard, I think he's a pretty nice guy. Like
Yeah.
he's not a homicidal maniac in real life. It's just that like these, you know, you just have these thoughts and thoughts just happen, and songs are a good way to just put them somewhere where they don't hurt anyone.
Yeah. Kind of is like therapy sometimes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, Hunter, do you have any more questions for us?
Yeah, can you see me?
Not yet.
There we
There
go.
you
There we go.
Yeah.
On.
Yeah.
Hey, first, I wanted to thank you, man. Thanks for joining us. It's been great to listen to this, and
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I think you have great points. I actually like a lot of what you said. I think it's valuable information. Second off, I wanted to ask you where we can find you, where people can find you on social media.
Yeah, so Young One Music is kind of it's the word young and then the letter one, and then music is kind of the tags across all the social media platforms. Most active on Instagram at the moment. And I guess Instagram automatically posts to Facebook, so I guess I'm on there, but I never check it. Twitter I don't really do. TikTok I'm struggling to really get in it, but I'm on there. I'm actually trying to do a lot more on Twitch. I've done a couple of live streams on Twitch where I'll just play some of my songs. I'll play some cover songs. You know, the current schedule is Sunday evenings. I'll be on Twitch doing music. That might change. I might add a few, or I might change the day. But would love, if there are any Twitchers listening, I'd love to see them on Twitch. I think Twitch is really fun. I think Twitch is a really promising social media platform for musicians.
Yeah, probably a little underutilized musicians. I think it's cool you're doing
For sure. But don't ever rush to it and saturate it, because I want to use it for a little bit.
that.